Welcome back to another episode of What's New Wednesday. It's actually a Friday the 23rd of August, and we'll be covering everything that happened between August 14th and the 23rd. Plenty of things have happened, but we will be talking about how the American Federal Reserve hinted that interest rates hikes are likely over and cuts are on the way, which may have helped cause Bitcoin's price to spike enough to liquidate over $130 million worth of shorts, causing Bitcoin, along with the rest of the crypto market, to swing very heavily into the green today. On the Web3 gaming front, we have a Web3 game that's been in development for nearly 2 years called DimensionalsRPG that has decided to completely ditch crypto and NFTs, and they've left their entire community in the lurch. It's not looking good for them there, so we'll talk about that today. On the Openloot front, Openloot's got multiple different airdrop campaigns, but their social media airdrop campaign has quite a few new developments that we have to talk about. They're in their final phase 4, and there's some juicy stuff that's been announced, so we'll have to talk about that. And finally, on the Openloot front, we'll just quickly talk about BossFighters, as they've got a new token airdrop campaign that they've just started going until the 31st, so we'll quickly talk about that. On the Bigtime front, we have some new showdown developments to cover, kind of a little bit confusing, so we'll go over that and try and explain how all of that is working. Many of those developments are about more ways for players to earn Openloot airdrop points. So we definitely got to talk about that, because Openloot airdrop points is definitely a hot topic in the world of Openloot and Bigtime. Okay, so let's get right into it. As we always do, let's jump over into some charts and we'll start off. So, all right, so Bitcoin chart, huge pump today, but take a look at Bitcoin. Okay, so this is where we were last week, and we were just at about 58K. And I was talking about how Bitcoin on exchanges was at a 5-year low, and we hadn't seen this little amount of Bitcoin on exchanges since 2018. So that's multiple bull runs and bear runs. And what does that mean? That generally means it's pretty bullish. It means that people are prioritizing security over having liquidity when it comes to like being able to make trades. So taking Bitcoin off exchanges says, we've got all the Bitcoin we want. We're going to hodl and wait for price to go up. So I said, will the bulls win or bears win in the short term? I still was rooting for the bulls, but after that, we did see the price drop all the way down to 56K. This is right around the place where I said the week before that there was $2 billion worth of longs right here at about 54,000. So we have to assume that quite a bit of those longs probably moved their stop losses up a bit, and we're probably defending around 56K. We bounced it off 56K and resumed our bullish price action after that. Then we hit the 200 EMA on the 4-hour again on Tuesday, August 20th, and we were rejected from the 200 EMA again. We wicked above it, which is a good sign, but it's not like a guaranteed sign. Went down, retested 58K again, but on Wednesday we had a nice pump that not only wicked over the 200 EMA on the 4-hour, but had a really solid candle and then another 4-hour candle above the 200 EMA, which to me was a super bullish signal. And today we had it bounce off on Thursday at 60K, and today it's gone parabolic. Feels good to see this kind of price action on Bitcoin. And we also saw all the rest of the altcoins kind of go green today. We have popular Web3 gaming tokens like Shrapnel was up 20%. We have Wilder World was up 14% here, and Bigtime is up 12%. Sandbox is up 9%. Lots of juicy price action. Doge up 8%. So why did this happen? Let's take a look at some news here, right? So over 130 million in liquidations as Bitcoin skyrockets to a 3-week peak after Powell's rate cut promise. Okay, so who's Powell? Jerome Powell is Federal Reserve Chair, and every few weeks or so, every month, they have a meeting and it's televised, and he talks about what the Federal Reserve is doing. How is the US trying to combat inflation, essentially? So today he went on, had a meeting, and he announced some really good stuff. And instantly what we saw is that good news broke the $130 million worth of shorts that were ready for essentially Jerome Powell to come on and give more bad news. The opposite happened this time. and it gives the bulls momentum to break this month's all-time high. This month, you know, we've seen Bitcoin get just at about 62K and then was thoroughly denied. We haven't broken above that until now, and we had a bunch of shorts here probably around 62,500, and with this news we broke above it and we have seen Bitcoin rally above a 3-week high. So what did Jerome Powell say, right? What could have caused this spike? So yeah, Jerome Powell, Federal Reserve Chair, he addresses the public about their fight against inflation, and that has been plaguing the United States since 2021, 2022, all the way until now, 2024. And for the first time in a long while, Powell was in a good spirits about the economy. He was hinting toward that rate cuts are likely on the way and rate hikes are most likely going to stop. So this is super big news because, you know, the United States economy is arguably, you could say, like the biggest economy in the world. And when they make moves, the entire world feels it as far as the finances go. So we have some good news. They have another meeting on September the 18th going until the 19th. And we just basically have to hope that the good news will continue and we'll have positive news for the rest of the year. That'd be great. Maybe we'll actually see a rate cut. This is pretty great. If they can get their inflation closer down towards their target of 2%, then the whole world is going to benefit and crypto on a whole is going to benefit. But as for this current pump, I expect that we've created a new level of support for sure, probably at around 62K. And I really hope to see that the 200 EMA on the 4-hour is defended by the bulls and we don't see the price break below the 200 EMA on the 4-hour. If we do see the price break below the 200 EMA on the 4-hour, then we might go back and retest some lower ranges. But I think that we're probably going to be moving upwards for the coming weeks. Fingers crossed. So that's pretty much everything about crypto for this week, guys. We'll move on to the next topic. On the Web3 gaming front, we have a game called Dimensionals, and it has completely abandoned its crypto and Web3 elements, which has left their community members who have been speculating on their NFTs and things like that in a really bad spot. The price of these NFTs has basically gone to zero, and there's been huge creators in the Web3 space, content creators in the Web3 space, who supported Dimensionals, thought Dimensionals was going to be a good game for the space, etc., etc. And Sam Stefanina has been, you know, he's a huge creator in the space, and he's had a couple Twitter spaces about this, and there's quite a bit of things that they've been talking about, but we'll just play. I think you guys, if you want to know more about Dimensionals leaving the space, definitely recommend checking out this Twitter space. You can just find it on Sam Stefanina's Twitter page, so do that if you want to like a more in-depth inside look on what happened with Dimensionals. But we're just going to listen to a couple minutes of it quick, and this should give us a little bit of an idea about what's been going on.
So I think I'll kind of preface this by saying Dimensionals was the fastest and probably the most painful way I've deleted money in this space, and I love it at that. So I definitely lost a lot throughout this whole saga. But I do think that there's more nuance to what is happening here versus what I think people think is happening on the surface. I mean, there's Hanlon's razor, which basically equates to never assume malice when stupidity will do just fine. And that's what I think is going on here. It's important to remember that a year and a half ago, Sasha was so bought into the idea of Web3 that he was at a native Web3 conference with a massive booth, showing people the ropes of the game, having people the opportunity to play it. They were completely bought in. He was posting thought pieces on the Web3 eco. I think what happened is that they realized that the Web3 ecosystem inherently is a PvP and a player-to-player or peer-to-peer experience. And I've tweeted about this, a brief thread in the past. And I think a game like Dimensionals does not lean itself into Web3 well. And I think what happened over time was they came to realize that it probably wasn't going to work in the way that they wanted it to work from the Dimensionals aspect. How the game operated, Web3 just really didn't make sense. And I think what a lot of people saw there was Web3 can't work.
All right. So, I mean, that dragged on for a little bit. The gist is a lot of people got burned and it just did not work out for them. They made some really bad decisions. They seemed to lead their community on. Here's kind of an example. August 2022, 2023. This is an interview by Decrypt Gaming's journalist, Kate Irwin.
Mino Games, from its inception, has been about building franchises, building like character-driven franchise. So we had Mino Monsters, where we had 200 monsters. We had Cat Game, where I think we got like 2,500 different cats you can collect now. Dog game, dimensionals. And so we've always, like, our kind of bread and butter has always been about collecting characters. And for us, it seemed like a no-brainer. The huge NFT craze, the PFPs, like all this stuff, it's actually creating real liquid value on these collectibles. And it's just so much better and so much more interesting than any collectible that's ever existed before. You know, like if you have a really rare Pokemon card, you still got to go on eBay. Being able to earn something in a game or win it from a tournament and immediately have that ability to trade and even do cooler stuff with it because it's programmable is really exciting.
All right, so that's the CEO. That's the guy who decided to pull out. That's the guy who screwed a bunch of people over. Him and his nice fancy house. If I had a kitchen like that, I'd be pretty happy. Some people felt like the writing was on the wall with this game and others were completely blindsided. I feel lucky that I wasn't too interested in them. Their gameplay just kind of didn't look that exciting. Like, this is the gameplay. It's like really cartoony, doesn't look exciting. These kinds of RPGs are just like single player, like meh. Dime a dozen. We've all played Pokemon. Why would I just play Pokemon then? So I'm not usually into RPGs like this. And I don't think that RPGs like this do really lend themselves to Web3. Like peer-to-peer is so important. And you know, Dal's in the chat saying, sounds like Bigtime, but no, Bigtime is not a single player RPG. So okay, some people thought that it was going to work. Other people didn't. So I feel really lucky that I wasn't interested into them. I walked right past their booth when I was at 3XP like a year and a half ago. And I didn't bother interviewing them either. I was going around interviewing all sorts of projects about their games. Skipped them. They made a Twitter post though, like a year ago, announcing me as one of their creators without even asking me if I wanted to be one of their creators, which kind of felt like they were just trying to gain credibility without putting in any work into creating a real relationship with creators, especially the small ones. They were just like, they'll be fine to just have a couple Twitter posts shouting them out and we're just gonna steal their ethos and that'll be fine. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I reached out to them and was like, okay, so I'm one of your creators. What does that mean? And they basically just told me to go buy some NFTs. So yeah, that didn't sit so well with me. But what are your guys' thoughts about this? Do you think that this could have been handled better? Were you burned by Dimensionals? I feel like a lot of people were, so I'm definitely keen to see what people say in the comments. Okay, next, let's move on from people getting rugged and to happier topics. I think of myself as an Openloot creator. I generally only play Bigtime, which is Openloot's debut game, but I support and follow along with all the other games and activities they have going on. I've played pretty much every one of the other games in the Openloot ecosystem at this point. But lately, Openloot has been running airdrop campaigns for their upcoming token, Openloot token. There are currently 2 ways that you can get Openloot airdrop to you. One way is by participating in social media airdrop campaign, and the other way is by earning Openloot reward points through playing Bigtime. Right. So there have been some developments on the social media campaign side of things. Well, a few stuff. So let's just start talking about that. First off, we need to cover quickly that Openloot has added social media tasks that help you be able to earn more points. This task section is really simple, really easy to accomplish. Retweet this specific tweet for an extra 50 points. Make a social media post that says that you are participating in the social media campaign, that kind of stuff. So there's tasks now, and that's new. That just came to be like a week ago or so. But next, they've also updated their rounds section in the Openloot social media points tab of their website. And so first there was only phase 1, right? Openloot members begin to accumulate points. Then they announced the total quantity of the Openloot reward points that are going to be distributed in round 1, which is 5 million Openloot reward points, which equates to 500,000 Openloot tokens. Then they also released how many tiers there were and what the distribution per tier is. So there's 2 tiers in round 1. Tier 1 gets 20,000 Openloot reward points and there's 50 winners. Tier 2 gets 5,000 Openloot reward points and there's 800 winners. So that's 2,000 2,000 open loot or 500 open loot. So that's what the distribution is looking like. The final thing, phase 4, is a 2x point week that ends August 30th. So we have one final week before the end of this, and then the rewards are going to be distributed a couple weeks later, the open loot reward points. So every single post, every single activity you do is 2x now. So every post you make will get you between 2 and 2,000 social media points. Every retweet will give you 20 points instead of 10. So if you aren't in tier 1 or tier 2, this is your last chance to try and get into tier 1 or tier 2. If you're in tier 2 but you want to be in tier 1, same as before, this is your final push if you want to get in there. It looks like I'm in tier 1, which is pretty sweet so far, but there's no way to tell by how much I'm in tier 1. So you best know that I'm going to be pushing to make sure. It would suck if I got bumped down to tier 2 last minute because I just wasn't making enough social media posts or doing stuff like that. I certainly would not mind being one of the 50 people to get 2,000 open loot tokens. That would be pretty. So yeah, once open loot token is live, there's going to be all sorts of utility that is going to kind of act as a bridge between different games, and it'll help increase activity on the open loot market. Sick. So before we move on from the open loot topic, on the open loot front, there's another airdrop campaign that we need to bring attention to. Boss Fighters today just announced that they have a BFT token airdrop that's live, and it's a small sprint. It's a very short sprint. It ends August 31st with daily challenges that you can do. So they're distributing 10,000 BFT tokens as well as 500 digital collectibles, so some NFTs as well. So definitely something you guys would want to check out. If you haven't jumped into Boss Fighters yet, this is the perfect opportunity to jump in and give this game some solid playtime, because I mean, it's going to pay off, so you want to do it. Okay, so next we're going to move on to the world of Bigtime. Bigtime has been doing their showdown for a little while now, like 3 weeks, and during each showdown week you do different things to get round points, and there are weekly winners. In the first 2 weeks, the winners were earning, like, first prize won 150,000 Bigtime tokens, the top 10 won 10,000 Bigtime tokens, the top 20 won 1,000, and you had to craft certain things. First week, craft Fate Weaver's armor set. Second week, craft swords and daggers. Third week, craft Onyx Throne armor sets, right? But okay, so we're looking Bigtime rewards, and I was pretty sure up until very recently this said Bigtime rewards, but now this week it looks like they've switched it. So the winners on the Bigtime showdown are getting open loot reward points. First place getting 3 million open loot reward points, which is like 300,000 open loot tokens, which is pretty nuts. Second place getting 200,000, third place getting 100,000, fourth place getting 50,000, and so on. Top 10 getting 20,000, and the top 20 getting a couple thousand, 2,000. So that's pretty crazy. It's a crazy change. It kind of snuck up on me. I feel like the change was pretty recent, but who knows? Maybe they were always planning on switching to open loot reward points partway through the showdown all along, but it looks like they've started this thing called showdown bounties or showdown speed boost events. These events don't necessarily align or aren't necessarily a part of the actual showdown, and that's the confusing part, right? So like the first one that they did, first place prize got 50k Bigtime tokens, third place got 10k, and that one you had to craft an astral edge, rare astral edge. The second one they did, you had to craft rare daggers, and this one just gives you 50k points, 25k points, 10k points. But I swear when this first came out it said Bigtime, because I'm pretty sure I remember gunning for that reason, and it says it's been edited, but who knows? So who knows what's happened here. This one is the speed boost, but you know, okay, so you only get 50,000 reward points, but then now there's this one that came out and it ended on the 21st, and this one gave a 500,000 open loot reward points, which is like, you know, that's 50k open loot right there, and third place got 100k, and that one was a bounty. So there's bounties and there's speed boost events, and I guess the bounties are ones where you do in-game actions like kill bugs and stuff, and the speed boost events are like crafting events. But here's another speed boost event, and this one you're crafting an item that has absolutely nothing to do with this week's crafting. The first two crafting events, right? An astral edge during the time when we're supposed to be crafting swords and daggers, that makes sense. That same token, rare dagger when we're supposed to be crafting swords and daggers, that makes sense. But this week, this one has absolutely nothing to do with the showdown. However, it does seem to give points, but it gives way more points than before. Before, this one said it gave 50,000 points, and now this one is saying that it gives 500,000. 500,000 would be 5k. This bounty was for Openloot points, but this is for round points, so this has nothing to do with Openloot reward points. So I'm really confused about all this showdowns, these little showdown events. They're really kind of throwing me for a loop, because it seems like they just constantly keep changing what the prizes are. This one, I'm pretty sure, I swear, was big time tokens at first, but now it's just points. And then now this week, crafting the shield gives way more round points than this week, which doesn't make sense to me. So I got my math wrong on all of this stuff we were just talking about. Yeah, anyways, the showdown is really confusing for me because the rewards that they give for them have been so different each time. And why is this week, why are they getting so much more round points than the last week? But whatever. Okay, so let me know if you guys are also confused by these little showdown events. I find them to be really confusing. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you are. The only event that's still live that people can participate in is one where you can craft rare shields, and if you craft the most rare shields, you get 500k points. If we look at the Openloot market, the price of the uncommon shields has 2x in the past 20 hours, and I expect that price to continue. You know, we see some of the big crafters here. Umit's trying to craft a lot of rares. Ericsson's trying to craft a lot of rares. Mint, Yuki, El Bolo, and we got Charlie P buying some too. So who's gonna craft the most rare shields is basically gonna completely determine who wins this showdown at this point. Well, at least like who gets in the top 10, right? Because if you are one of the top 3 people in this showdown, first place gets 500,000 round points. That's game changing. Second and third place get the exact same reward, which I find kind of confusing too, but they each get 250,000. So yeah, that's the showdown. It's kind of a little bit crazy. It's been a wild ride in the world of big time and showdowns these days. That's it for What's New Wednesday this week, guys. Friday edition. If you are watching this in the future, be sure to like, subscribe, follow, and as always, don't forget to tell somebody about it, and I will see you guys next week.